And the difference between a critic and a servant is this: they see the same problem and they respond differently. You could show up in the church and say, there's a problem. And a critic will say, therefore, I'm going to criticize that, mock that, malign that, make fun of that. And a servant comes along and says, I'm going to fix that. You're going to read with me in the ensuing weeks 7 churches, some of which are awesome, some of which are awful. There are horrible churches in here too. And what God is calling John to do is not to be a critic of those churches, but to be a servant of those churches. Friends, I'll be honest with you. Mars Hill has problems, starting with me and proceeding from there. Okay? But ultimately, if you have the heart of a critic, you will find some reason to oppose or reject or leave Mars Hill. If you come with the heart of a servant, you will see that same need as a calling from Jesus for you to get involved and make a difference. And that's what families do, right? That's what families do. You don't show up and yell at your mom and cuss out your brother. Maybe you do. You have a bad family. I'm just telling you. Instead, what you do is you say, okay, well, the family's got problems. I need to serve to help this be a better family. So it is with the family of God. So it is with the family of God. So here's what John does: receives from Jesus a report on the 7 churches, and then that becomes articulated through these 7 letters to those 7 churches. So what I'm going to start doing is, once a month, I'm going to give you an update. How's Mars Hill doing? That's exactly what's going on here. And then once a month as well, the lead pastor at each of our locations will get up and tell you how that particular local church is doing. So briefly, let me give you a bit of an update on how things are going at Mars Hill. We're going to learn how things are going at the 7 churches of Revelation. Here's how things are going at Mars Hill Church. First of all, we have a lot to praise God for. If the guys had shown me the next slide, I'll share it with you. Here are evidences of God's grace. Easter this year, we had 19,634 people, our highest attendance ever. Praise God, right? That's good news. Some of our locations were over capacity. The fire marshal said nobody else can come in. There were certain places we couldn't actually allow everyone into the building. So we may have had 20,000 people if the fire marshal would have went out for a cup of coffee. So that's a good day for us. And some of you say, oh, it's all about the numbers. Yep. The number of people getting their sins forgiven, getting their lives changed by Jesus, going to heaven instead of hell. We would like that number to go up. We're all for that number going up, because it's not just numbers, it's numbers of people who meet Jesus. That we are excited about. 424 baptisms, many people met Jesus. That's awesome, we praise God for that. 41 services at 14 locations across 4 states, all because Jesus is alive. Jesus forgives sin. Jesus is God, ruling, reigning, living, just like John saw him. That's how we see him. That's why we have hope. That's why we believe there's a great future for us. Not because we're wonderful, but because he's alive. And he loves the church. And Jesus promised, I will build the church. And we believe what Jesus says.